And now it's been true for the development of Angie's Place. God's hand has been in the middle of all of that. But what it's really about is people. And Henry's house and Angie's Place are tools that God intends to use to help people to recognize that they are cared about, that they are loved, that they are worthy, not maybe because of their own behavior, but because God considers them worthy. And God considers every one of you worthy. And there's none of us who has to go without, because the hand of God is upon us. And so I'm just so pleased to be able to stand before you and give praise to the one who has made it all possible, and who we really believe will continue to bless and take us further down the road. Each of these people have been, on some level, heroes to me. There's another one that I want to introduce to you right now, who's also been kind of a hero to me. Who's part of our, at that time we called it Endeavor House family. Darren McIntyre is here, and he's going to be coming up and giving a testimony about his experience, strength, and hope. Amen. And I just thank God for this brother. Bless him.
Hello. My name is Darren McIntyre. Can you guys hear me?
No.
You might have pressed the power button.
I think you did.
Just hold it down.
No, we're on.
Good speech, Darren.
Check.
No.
The LED light is on.
Yeah, we're on.
Got the expert.
Check.
No.
Where?
Oh, there's stuff right there. in the mic.
Oh.
The tech guy. The tech guy doesn't have a mic.
Check. Am I on?
Yeah.
No.
No.
You got me on, Elliot?
No.
I mean, I have a voice that carries, so. No. Check.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Check. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so much for coming up here and being nervous, I guess. My name is Darren McIntyre. I had planned on asking Caitlin to borrow her child, so. I thought a lot about what I wanted to say, and I made some notes. But of course, listening to everybody and seeing everything, made me think of other things. I wanted to start out with a verse, Philippians 1:6. And I am sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ. And he's speaking about the process of sanctification. And I know for me, it's a continuous, ongoing process. When me and Pastor Dave were going over the PowerPoints and stuff, I told him, I said, this was a great slide for me. I was born at Lansing General Hospital and been in mid-Michigan my whole life, or a resident of the state of Michigan my whole life. I too have spent a lot of time in jail talking to other inmates, but not from the outside. My dad left before I was born. I was raised by a stepfather that was an alcoholic and very hands-on. I started drinking at a really early age. I remember about 9, 10 years old getting drunk at a Christmas party in my grandmother's basement, and nobody even noticed. They were all drunk too. I started running away at a young age. My dad was pretty abusive to me and my mom. I just didn't want to be around it. I didn't do well in school. I didn't really have a lot of encouragement. You guys gotta forgive me, I'm horrible at public speaking. So I started running away and hanging out with friends that their parents would buy for us. And, you know, like age 13, I ended up trying to hitchhike across country. I got stuck in Memphis, Tennessee. And for those of you that know, 13-year-old is probably not the best place for them to be. I ended up getting in a lot of trouble. We were living in a small town outside of Lansing, Leslie, at the time, for those that know it. And I was bullied relentlessly, constantly. And my parents made it clear that I was not allowed to get in fights. That was just, I don't know why, that was just something I wasn't. So I never fought back because I knew my dad would get me. You know, the bully I wasn't worried about. I was worried about my dad. One night I got a phone call. My mom and dad had gotten in a fight, and he had kicked her in the knee and broke it. And they were splitting up, and we ended up moving back to Lansing. And when we moved back to Lansing, I made the decision that, you know, this is a big city. I'm not going to get bullied here. And I started fighting back. And I started running with a gang, and all the associated activity of that, you know, drugs and drinking, I mean, daily, every day, and it was just getting worse. Age 17, I caught my first felony. I went to jail for a year. I got out and I went to the House of Commons. Didn't last a month there, and I left. Wasn't long, I found myself on the way to prison. Went for the first time on a 2 to 5. I went to boot camp, came home. I wasn't home 9 months, and I was on my way back. I ended up doing 3 years that time. When I got out, my son was born, and you know, I was a horrible father to all my kids. I was more worried about drinking, crack, you know, weed, pills, acid, whatever, more. I wanted more, you know. It wasn't ever one thing, it was always something. I just didn't want to feel anything, because I didn't like me, and I didn't like anything about me. I did that for a long time. I did about 11 years, off and on. And somewhere along the line, I got introduced to heroin, and that eventually led me to being on those streets. You know, gas stations right down there somewhere. And I spent many a day going between the gas station, the Jim Ho drop-in shelter, the city rescue mission. In 1992, I was in jail, and a guy named Dave Kopenauer was coming out and doing Bible studies at the jail. He's in the house of prayer out by Barry. And he explained the plan of salvation to me in a way that made sense. And my whole life I've been in the church 6, 7, 8 times for weddings and funerals and stuff, but no idea about Jesus or who he was or why he was here or any of that. My parents always allowed me to read and anything I wanted, so at one point I was way off into like, you know, witchcraft and Ouija boards and Aleister Crowley and all that stuff. And, you know, I knew there was a God, but I just didn't know who he was until Pastor Dave explained, you know, who Jesus was and why he came, why we needed him. I mean, he went back to Abraham and outlined the whole thing, and it was like, wow. Well, they called me about a week or so after that Bible study, and they were charging me with like 7 more felonies. And I was looking at 40 years or something, some ridiculous amount of time. And I remember I came back from the city jail in Lansing, and I got on my knees at the holding cell, and I just said, you know, if you just want me to believe in you, fine, I give up. I don't want to live like this. It wasn't get me out of jail, you know, none of that. It was just I was tired. And I started reading my Bible, and I started studying my Bible, and lo and behold, all those charges disappeared. You know, nothing that I had anything to do with. It was a timing issue on the prosecutor, and you know, total God things. I don't take any credit. Well, you would think that I got my act together, but no. Like I said, I continued to do what I did. So I'm homeless now and strung out on heroin. They call it flying a sign. You know, you see them all the time. You know, we'll do anything for, you know, for some money. And the whole time I knew, you know, like Jesus doesn't want me living this way. I knew that. I knew that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. Something in the back of my head was saying, you know, go to Teen Challenge, go to Teen Challenge. And I wasn't going to do it. I just wasn't going to do it. I heard horror stories about it. I wasn't going. Well, one day, after crashing in an abandoned house with 2 foot of trash on the floor, I just had enough. And the guy I was with, I told him, I said, you know, I think I'm going to go get some help. Yeah, you know, you might want to think about that. I was like, no, I'm going right now. And I did. I walked to Sparrow Hospital, and I walked in, and I said, I need some help. You know, I can't do this. I don't want to live anymore. I'm tired. So they sent me to a psychiatric hospital, and then I went to Ohio to a drug treatment program. And my counselor there was like, well, hey, what do you think about aftercare? Yeah, let's do that, you know. Well, I don't know what you'll think about it because it's a Christian program. And I'm like, man, it's going to be teaching. She's like, no, it's called Endeavor House, you know. And so they got me on the phone with Pastor Dave and Mike Kenoy, and yeah, we've got a beautiful, you know, however many acres on Jolly and Waverly. Where? Like, where is it? And I mean, I drove past it hundreds of times and never knew it was there. You know, it's like God just kind of protects that place. So I got there, and I was doing really good. And I got put in a leadership position. And I went and relapsed. And I was taken out of the Endeavor House resident manager's bedroom by an ambulance to the emergency room. I had aspirated my own vomit when I was pretty close to death. And when I woke up in the hospital, for one of the first times in my life, instead of thinking, you know, hey, you're just a screw up, you can't do nothing right, I said, man, I can't do this no more. And I called Mike, and I said, hey, what do I got to do to come back? And he told me, he said, you know, you got to go back to rehab. You got to get 30 days under your belt. So I did, and I came back, and I really took to it, you know. I really started making efforts to get my life in order. I got my financial aid straightened out for school. I started going to school. I ended up graduating the program. I stayed for another year and was the resident manager. I've had the pleasure, I knew Chadwick and Chris G. It amazed me how many people in this room I know in some form. You know, you guys might not know me, but I recognize you. I tend to stay in the background and help. I went to school to be behind the camera, not up here. So I continued to go to LCC while I was at the resident manager at the house. My mom passed away. I hadn't spoke to her in about 8 years, and we had started talking again. And the night that she passed away, I was the one that got the phone call. And I stuck it out, and I stayed, and I kept doing what I needed to do. Eventually, it got to the point where I got offered a job at Lansing Community College as a student employee. Now keep in mind, this is with 14 felony convictions, okay? And I got offered a job, and I got it. And I ended up going to Mike and Pastor Davies, letting them know, hey, I think it's time for me to move on. And I ended up getting my own apartment. Thank you. I ended up getting my own apartment. And I was working at LCC, and something wasn't right. I was lonely, and so I started dating, and none of that was working. And I prayed a lot for a wife, somebody to share life with. And one day I walked into Dollar General to get some duct tape for something I was working on. And my wife Nancy was working there. We started talking, and she come over and hung out and never left.
That's me.
We were married 30 days after we met, and we've been together 4.5 years now. I graduated Lansing Community College, and the manager of my department came to me and said, hey, you've got a staff employee position coming up, and I want you to apply for it. It's like, hey man, student employee job's one thing. There's no way the school can hire me. Right? He said, don't worry about it. He said, you put the application in, let me worry about that. Called me in his office a few weeks later, and he said, yeah, they're giving me some blowback on your background check, but I told them that if they don't hire you, that I'm going to file a complaint. I want you to work for me. And I got that job. I was audiovisual classroom and tech support for events and classroom services at the West Campus. And I worked there until COVID hit. When COVID hit, me and my wife both got laid off. We started a business. We bought a house that we moved into the day after we got married. Sorry about that. We started a business. Business was going good. And this is where I get to the point that I want everybody to know. And this is why I started by talking about sanctification. I know that there's people in this room that can relate to exactly what I'm talking about. We're not perfect, We get tools, and it's our choice whether to use them or not. We start making mistakes. We got to stop ourselves and look at what we're doing and start making the right choices again. And those are the tools that Endeavor House gave me. They put me in a position where I see myself as somebody worthy of being here. I'll never forget, I was at the Endeavor House about 3 weeks, and I was sleeping, I was depressed. Where's my boat? Where's my retirement? I done wasted my life. And somebody came and woke me up like 11 o'clock in the morning, and they said, hey, Okie wants to see you out in the office. This isn't good, So I go out there, and Okie sits me down, and, excuse me, Jody, but he says, you know what? He said, you need to shut up and do the dishes. And I looked at him because I just walked through the kitchen and there wasn't any, what do you mean? And he said, you know how you don't do the dishes and they pile up, they get all stinky in the sink? And I'm like, yeah. He said, man, sometimes you just got to shut up and do them whether you want to or not. He's like, why are you sleeping all the time? And I told him, I said, I'm depressed in my life, but it's great here, this house is great, but I don't have nothing, I don't feel like I'm anything. And all that construction had just gotten done, and the garage was full of old materials. And he said, why don't you go out there and clean that garage? Now it's about 11 o'clock in the morning. Wow, man, that's a big job. He said, just go get started. About 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 1:30 or so, I had the garage empty, and I felt better, So I started putting everything back. By the time I got done, that was really the turning point in my life, because it was like, I can devote myself to doing something and accomplish it. And up until, he asked me, he said, when's the last time you finished anything? Jail sentences. GED, when I was in jail. You know, I hadn't finished anything. And to this day, I tell guys when I meet the new guys in the house, stick it up, you know, stick it out. Give yourself a break. You know, Chadwick, Chris G, Brad McLaren, Mike Kofeld, you know, Mike Keenon, Kelly, there's just too many to count. I mean, where I'm at now compared to where I was, I'm the Technology Services Coordinator at the Lansing Entertainment and Public Facilities Authority. I'm in charge of the Lansing Center, Lebanon Stadium, and Prospect Golf Course. I mean, I work with politicians, vice presidents of the organization. It's, you know, there's a lot of times when I sit and I take a look and it's like, how did I get here? You know? And I got here the same way you eat elephant one bite at a time, right? I got here one day at a time. And because of what Endeavor House gave me, I'm able to continue to do that. You know, even when I make mistakes, even when things aren't going good. Because look, I guarantee you life's gonna happen. I don't care. Life's gonna happen. Somebody's gonna get sick. My mom passed away. My dad passed away. I mean, life happens. And I'm thankful that I'm able to see myself as somebody worthy of God's love, number one, but worthy of my own love, you know, because I don't hate myself anymore. And I promised I wouldn't ramble because I can, but I also wanted to read Romans 8:28-30. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good. For those who are called according to his purpose. For those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, in order that he might be the firstborn among many brothers. And those whom he predestined, he also called. And those whom he called, he also justified. And those whom he justified, he also glorified. You know, I really believe that the people who end up at the Endeavor House are meant to end up at the Endeavor House. I've seen guys come, make a decision and leave, and come back. Mike and Okie used to tell me that they always planned on Endeavor House being a place where you build a family, and you can go there and always be welcome. And to this day, that's exactly what it is to me. I know I can go stop at the house anytime, day or night, have a cup of coffee and somebody to talk to. And the family and friends that I built along the way,